Hi, I'm Clésia Mendes, and welcome to Womanhood from the Inside Out. In this interview series, we'll be discovering and uncovering the nature of womanhood from the inside out. Why is it important? When does it show? How can we identify it? And what are the implications of womanhood from the inside out? And today's guest is my dear friend, Jacquie Forde. Jacquie is a social entrepreneur, business coach and consultant, wife and mother to three tenacious daughters. She teaches and mentors human beings, professional coaches, entrepreneurs, teenagers, and souls to find peace of mind and their ability to live authentic selves, guiding them to a happier and more fulfilling life, while also helping them to develop insightful practices and businesses. Jacquie loves to work with women lost in the midst of parenthood, the glass ceiling, and the corporate sticky floor to get clear about living an abundant, joyful life with clarity and purpose. She is an international speaker, trainer, activist, and a campaigner for political improvements in Scotland and UK to improve health, mental well-being, and equality, especially for disadvantaged communities. And Jacquie's work is guided by the three principles first articulated by Mr. Sydney Banks, which is considered to be a new spiritual and psychological paradigm. Welcome, Jacquie.
Hi, Clésia. Lovely to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So, my first question would be really, how did you first came across the understanding of the inside out experience of life?
Okay, probably like many of your listeners, Clésia, all of my life I've been a seeker. I've always known there was more to life than what I was experiencing. So from a very early age, I was always curious about how my mind worked. And I was always curious about other people. And I became a nurse and a midwife and loved all the interactions that I had while I was doing that. But again, I knew there was more to me. And I ended up working in the pharmaceutical industry and stayed there for about 27 years, working in everything from sales, training, marketing, government affairs. But while I was doing all of that, I was still seeking the answers. I knew that I thought a lot. I could see it. I was an observer to it. And I shared a story with you about when my girls were little, we would be in a bookshop on a Saturday morning, and their dad would be looking at the science fiction books, and I would, the girls would be in the little kiddie section at sort of 6, 4 and 2, and their dad would say to them, "Where's your mum?" And at 6, 4 and 2 years old, my kids could say to their father, "Well, mum's in the self-help section." So I was a fan of self-help books and was always looking outside of myself to find out what it was that I thought that I didn't have, I could find in these books. I studied neuro-linguistic programming and became an advanced master practitioner and a trainer and a hypnotherapist. And that taught me more about the role of thought, and I loved it. But it still didn't stop the questions. I knew there was something else. And then through just a series of events, doing a short 2-day training with Paul McKenna and Michael Neal, I came across this understanding. Michael Neal was talking about creativity, and I started to cry. I had no reason, I didn't know why I was crying. And the next morning I woke up and I had this literal vision in my head of a white flag on the right side of my brain and a white flag on the other side of my brain. And all I could hear was the word surrender. And I didn't know what it meant, Clésia. I really did not know what this meant. And when I said to Michael, "What is this?" he just said, "I love when these things show up as literally as that." And that was all he gave me. And as a result of that, I started to look more into the work that Michael did. And as I looked into the work that Michael did, I came across Sid Banks, I came across One Thought, I came across this understanding called the three principles. And the more that I looked in this direction, the more that full stop came at the end of the sentence. And I went from searching to knowing. I knew this was it. I knew that I didn't need to look outside of myself anymore to add anything to me. And in fact, this understanding is like a subtraction process. It's unpeeling and unlayering all the layers of me that I did not need just to be in the world.
And that is beautiful. It's beautiful because I guess sometimes when people start looking into the direction of this understanding, most of us, I can identify as being a seeker. I've been like, I can't say exactly all my life, but I think I became a seeker when I was 7 years old. So it's a long time. And is that as we are in that search for knowledge and what we think is wisdom and getting more and more knowledge, we keep adding up that information, right? And so we find this other guru, and the person, someone that tells, oh, I've got the answers, and we go along with them for a while, and we always tend to feel like we are falling short because it's also someone else's idea what the answer is. And when I want to take this, so for people who may start looking to this direction for the first time, you may notice that we don't have techniques. We don't have modules. So in the beginning, people feel a little bit confused because they are expecting all that extra information, and actually it works the other way around. From the inside out, it's actually peeling the layers, as you said, a different conversation altogether. And I'm just curious, in terms, can I, for example, ask you, in terms of personal life, what sort of changes have you noticed? What sort of ripple effects have you noticed in your relationships and so on?
That's a beautiful question. And I don't think there's an area of my life, Clésia, that it has not touched. I mentioned earlier, my bio, that I have 3 tenacious daughters. They're now 23, 21 and 18. And I'd always felt as though I was a good mum, that I listened, I worked hard and I listened to them. But I was up in my head a lot of the time, when the girls were growing up, my parents were unwell, and so I was dealing with a corporate job, I was dealing with my children, we were doing up the house, and my as I said, my parents were ill as well. And that was a period of my life that was tough, was really, really tough. And I guess through that toughness, it has an impact on our state of mind and our ability to communicate and our ability to be present with our families. And so my fuse was much shorter because I was dealing with so much. And as a result of coming across this understanding, I don't even have a fuse. I just don't have one. My daughters and I have a beautiful open relationship. They see the difference in me, that I'm more open, I'm less judgmental, I'm visibly more loving. I was always loving and demonstrative with that, but I'm more loving. It's as though they feel the difference in my energy as a human being. It's just a very, very different space to inhabit. And in fact, I often, if not ever, I don't ever feel like their mum. I feel like another soul, another human being who is with them, living through life. And what I've learned from this understanding is how important it is to point ourselves back inside. So women listening to this who have children, when your kids come to you for advice, the tendency is to give them that advice. And what I've found over the years is that I've pointed my girls back inside to their own wisdom, so much so that they now are trusting that more and more and more. In fact, my eldest daughter, Megan, would often call me in an evening last thing at night, and it was like the worries of the week had piled up, and she just wanted to get them off her chest. She wanted to verbalise them. And these phone calls would often come in about 10 o'clock at night. So Megan would sort of pass the monkey. She would tell me all of her problems. So she'd go to bed and sleep, and I would be wired. I'd be like, oh my God, oh my God. But now she doesn't do that. Now she knows herself that when things start to become overwhelming or challenging, she understands where her state of mind is. She understands that it's nothing outside of her, it's everything inside of her. And I rarely get a phone call where she's in that sort of overwhelmed state of mind anymore. She's able to figure it out, or just say to herself, I'm tired, so I'll just go to sleep and it'll be okay in the morning. Which is wonderful to see your kids do that. Any decisions, they know, they'll come and say what it is, and I'll just always say, well, you know what the best thing is to do. I'm here to talk it through, but you know what it is you want to do. My relationship with my husband, Jenny and I met and married in 5 months, 24 years ago, and I realised that at that point in my life, I was living from mind. I had no thinking about Jerry other than, I love this man, and thankfully he felt the same way about me. And I didn't think I could love him anymore, Clésia. I really didn't. And this understanding of the 3 principles has deepened my love for him in a way that just improves every single day. It really does. And I didn't think that was possible.
And I love the feeling of what you just said. I got like goosebumps all over my body, because the more I've been interviewing people who have been looking to this direction for a while, I'm noticing that most of them, they have really, really good relationships with their spouses. And in this day and age, being married for a long, long time is almost a rarity. Now, being happily married, that's a different story altogether. So I was about to ask, what is your secret?
Secret is love. It's love, Clésia. It's love and understanding that nothing outside of me can make me feel anything. Nothing. There was an example the other day there where I was going on a business trip and my Mac decided that it wanted to upgrade itself to the new operating system. And when it did that, it wiped all my passwords, including the Wi-Fi password. And I was just about to go on and record with Amy Johnson with our One Woman Global podcast. Next thing I knew, I couldn't get online. So I phoned Jerry and I'm like, Jerry, where's the password? And he said, oh, it's in the filing cabinet. Go to the filing cabinet, you'll find it. Now, his filing cabinet's not like my filing cabinet. My filing cabinet has tabs that says what's in each file. His wasn't like that. So I could feel myself becoming anxious because I knew I had to be somewhere to do something and I couldn't find the Wi-Fi password. And I actually heard myself, Clésia, and stopped myself. I said, Jerry, I need to go now because I'm about to start blaming you for the fact that the computer upgraded itself and it wiped out my passwords and I can't find the Wi-Fi password. So we both laughed. And I went away into the kitchen and I found the Wi-Fi password somewhere else in the kitchen. Now, there's a circumstance where often, as human beings, something happens, our state of mind drops, and we look for external blame to make us feel better. That doesn't happen in any of my relationships now, if my state of mind is good, because I'm human. Sometimes I don't see it, Clésia, and sometimes I don't catch it. But these beautiful examples of realising that when you come from a place of love and compassion and understanding, you can't help but be in love with the person who's opposite you, or love the person who's opposite you. Because you know that they're doing their best at any given moment in time, just like we do. There's this shared humanity that we have, this humanness that we forget about when we start to look at, he said that to me or she said that to me and that makes me feel. We're responsible for our own feelings. We're responsible for our own actions. and we're responsible for our own reactions to things. But I wanted to say to you, when you asked me about relationships, I think one of the most important relationships is that I've seen a difference is my relationship to me. I think as women, and especially women who work or have children or are carers, we forget about ourselves and we get lost in who we are. And this understanding has helped me see me perfectly imperfect, doing the best I can in any given moment, and has allowed me to have a grace and an elegance, a gentleness and a kindness towards how I show up in life. When we feel that love and compassion for ourselves first, it's easier to be compassionate and loving to everybody else. So that's where my deepest learning, I think, has come from.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. It's one of the things that I've been seeing recently is that coming from a place of intellect previously, I used to be very aware of people's behaviors. I like to observe people. I love people, but at the same way that I love people, I also observe people a lot, right? I love people watching. And one of the things that I've noticed is that in some instances, I was using that habit of observing people's behaviors, I guess to set up labels, right? For example, the type of person that is always late, the type of person that is on time or is early. I prefer to do business with people that are on time or early, all that sort of thing. So, and there was a lot of thinking involved. And I'm using just a small example. And when I started looking to this understanding more recently, all of a sudden I woke up and was like, oh no, I'm a really bad person because I've been separating people between being late and being on time. And I was kind of putting myself down for it. And then I just recognized, I was like, hang on. The fact that I've noticed that, that's a good thing, I guess. Yes. And that took the pressure off because like everyone else, I'm evolving and I'm learning myself. Yes. Instead of thinking that I'm this terrible person who doesn't like to hang out with people who arrive late.
But you know what? That's okay to feel that. You know, you're human. Let life flow through you, you know. It's okay to feel that. But the lovely thing is that you recognise that you were feeling that. And then you develop this lightheartedness about it, rather than seeing it as this is a fact. And there's something to be defensive about, or there's something to be angry about. People show up when they're meant to show up. You know, and there's all those things, isn't it, that people say when people don't turn up in time. It's they don't value my time, they don't respect my time. You know, and I'm sorry, but what is time?
What is time? Well, I guess I was about to say that is a mental construct, but it's not even that. It's just an agreement that in society we make. And it even depends in each part of the world we are in. Because if I am in UK, we agree that this time is this time, but if a different country, a different continent, maybe 8 hours ahead, 5 hours behind. So it's an agreement, a kind of almost local agreement that we have. So it's all made up, really, in essence.
And essentially what you're pointing to there as well, Clésia, is the different perceptions and the separate realities that we all have about our perception of time. And when you start to see all these different perceptions, these separate realities about one tiny thing, when you start to open that up and you see that we all have different perceptions about absolutely everything, how can you ever be so opinionated about one thing when opinion is constructed from thought and you're never going to see something the same way that somebody else does? You know, to me, it just makes life this great big cosmic joke that we all get caught up in.
Yes, because all of a sudden what I saw is that all the need to be right is just laughable.
Yeah.
You can be right inside your own head, but everyone else is being right in their own head. So yeah, the separate realities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cute, isn't it?
Yeah, very cute. um, I'm curious about still in the topic of relationships. For example, relationships with parents or relationship with mom, dad. Um, have you already told us that you've seen difference everywhere. So would you be willing to share how it has showed up with the relationship with your parents?
Oh, my parents passed a few years ago, Clésia, so
Okay.
before I came across this understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's interesting, as a question, it's really interesting because even though I might not have recognised it at the time, there were experiences that I had with my parents, both when they were alive and well and when they were ill, and I was looking after them, that I was living in that quiet space. I was living in that in mind without even thinking about it. And I was recalling a story to someone last night actually about when my grandmother was dying, and she came home and she wanted to have a bath. And so I think I was only about 26 or 27 at the time. And I said to her, well, look, I'll help you into the bath. And I said, but you've got a wee apron there. I said, so that I don't get upset by seeing your private bits, let me put it on you. And I bathed my grandmother with this tiny little apron covering her her private parts, and we giggled and we laughed, and it was just such a beautiful moment. Sort of to administer love, to administer care with nothing on it. Nothing on it. And I had those experiences with my parents as well, where you just have these moments of such open, loving communication where you're not attached to the outcome. Whatever happens, happens. In fact, my dad, when he was in hospital and he was dying, and I'd seen him on the Tuesday night, and I said to him, I'll see you tomorrow, Dad, but I had to go down to London for a meeting. But something inside me told me that I wasn't meant to go down to London, and I didn't listen. Didn't listen, Clésia. And I went down to London and I got the phone call that I was to come back up. And at the airport, I was really calm. Incredibly calm. And I drove from Edinburgh to Glasgow to the hospital that he was in. Very, very clear-minded. So clear-minded, Clésia, that I could actually feel other relatives who had passed in the car with me. I could feel this incredible energy with me. And my dad passed later on that night. But there was no drama. There was no guilt about, that I hadn't listened to my wisdom and that I'd gone down to London and that I had to travel back. I just knew everything was going to be okay. It was going to be the way that it was meant to be. So it was a surrendering to everything, the circle of life. That's what it is, the circle of life. And I always remember Bill Pettit speaking about Dr. Bill Pettit. And this made me laugh when he said that everything that is composed decomposes.
True.
So true. And it is that circle of life that when it's time for someone to go, it's time for someone to go. When it's time for someone to be born, it's time for someone to be born. And I've been so blessed throughout my life, Clésia, that, in my nursing days and being a mum, that I've helped souls into this world. And I've been with souls as they've left this world. And that just helps you see the humanness of us all. The fact that nobody's broken, that our essence is pure, and that when we just surrender to life, life guides us. Life shows us what it is we're meant to do. Sort of swimming with the tide as opposed to swimming against the tide.
And that is fascinating because sometimes we may have this perception that in order to make things happen, we need to apply pressure and intention and focus and so on. And that's one way of doing life, which
Mm.
expends a lot of energy. When we go with the flow of life, things are more creative, generative solutions that I could never have planned just show up. In fact, I just remember one of these days I was having a conversation with one of my mentors, and we were talking about planning. And before I came across this understanding, I used to be a great planner, right? 5 years plan, 10 years plan, and so on. And I would get it step by step. And she told me, Clésia, it's funny. One of the things that I discover is that there are certain things in your plan that won't happen. And there are certain things that are not in your plan that will happen. And can you remember of a time when things that were not in the plan happened and they were way better than you could have planned for? And of course, I could remember. Who can't?
Mm. Yeah, that's so true. I find that in my work as well, Clésia, sort of I always had my to-do lists and everything I had to do, and would get upset with myself when I couldn't complete everything that was on the list. And I would financial plan, and I'd create strategies, and I'd have stakeholder plans and objectives and next call objectives, you name it. That's what I would do. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you don't have a plan. And this is something I always say to people, sort of coming across this understanding does not mean don't plan, don't do it. But it's created from a place of inspiration rather than a place of expiration. Sort of that, really trying hard to create something rather than it just flowing out of you like, oh, right, put that in my list, need to get that done. But you're in this state of flow about moving forward rather than feeling awkward about what's been going on.
I'm curious about the aspect of inspiration. Can you please tell us more about it?
Oh, I love that question. To me, when you're inspired to do something, and everybody's had something in their life, whether it's a relationship or a job or a task or a hobby, where they have done something from inspiration, there's a love, there's a passion, there's an engagement with something that you can't stop yourself from doing. I mean, the experience that I'm having at the moment is that over the last year or so, I've been working, trying to change mental health policy within Scotland with this understanding. And I say working because I just show up when I'm meant to show up and have conversations with who I'm meant to have conversations with. Let's get real with this. And again, with nothing on it. But because that's coming from wisdom, I can't stop myself. It's almost like every time I try to stop myself, the universe goes, right, Jacquie, time to get back in there again. And I get tugged into doing something. When I create, and I create from that place of inspiration, everything flows. There's no second guessing. There's no judgment. It just flows. You find what's easy for you, and it just flows. But when you create from a space of tension, that you have to get something done, in my experience, and I can only ever talk about my experience, Clésia, I find that a space where it's almost like the door shuts to my creativity and I have limited access to make anything happen. And there's a lot of judgment on it. There's often a need for approval in it. And I know when I get that feeling, I know I'm not in the space to create or do anything. So I just leave it until that moment comes back up again where I'm doing it before I realise what I'm doing.
That is a really good point. And that is one of the things that I'm coming to grips recently, because I've got a bias for action. And I'm finding myself doing less from a pressure space. And I'm creating the time to do nothing, just to kind of not just to get energized and inspired. I'm still taking action, but what I'm finding is that the sort of action that I'm taking is quite leveraged in the sense of results that I'm getting. I couldn't foresee that. And I'm
Yeah.
creating the space instead of running a lot like I used to. I'm more relaxed, and sometimes the name of the game is actually no. I'm just over here enjoying nature for the next 30 minutes instead of sending that email.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. What I found is that the more you get into that space, the quieter your mind becomes, because you're not running ahead thinking of all the things you have to do when you have to do them by. You're letting that come to you in the moment when you're meant to do them. So in that space where your mind is quieter, what I found is, because my mind's quieter, I am more creative. You know, I am able to see what it is I'm meant to do in any given moment. Like you said, I'll send the email later. It doesn't make sense to do it right now. Rather than I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this. I mean, I had an instance a couple of months back where I was sending an email to someone that I wanted to meet to move forward in something, and the email didn't go through. It didn't go through to the person, and I thought, that's really curious. And then I just left it. I didn't try to resend it. Later on that night, I thought came to me, and I thought, do you know what? That other person will be better. And I sent it to the other person, and it went through. And they agreed to do what it was I wanted them to do. So I often think that when we allow that flow to happen, it happens in the best way for us, rather than us trying to push it, trying to make it happen. So looking out for synchronicities, looking out for, you know, sort of little things that happen that are wisdom, giving you a little guide as to perhaps not today, perhaps not this. And in doing that, it allows you to be stronger about yourself, your own energy, your own protection, which is what I loved in what you just said. You know, maybe you just to go and sit outside for half an hour and just enjoy being, rather than always doing.
Absolutely. And I was just remembering, I had just an experience yesterday. I thought about a friend in the morning. I was like, oh, I would love to see so and so. I haven't seen her in a while. And then I was in a mentorship call in the evening, and then after we finished the call, I remembered that I needed to go to the shops to buy something. And I'm walking towards the shops, and it was beautiful. So I'm walking through the arcades, and she comes in a corner, and she goes ahead of me because she was with someone else. And then I was looking, is that my friend? Wow, it's really her, isn't it? So I didn't want to jump in, otherwise they would get scared or something like that. So I kind of was tagging along just behind them, and then I said, hey, how you doing? And she was Clésia. So they parted ways. I went with my friend for 10 minutes or so. So we did our catch up, and it was lovely to see you. And I was, it's funny, I thought about you this morning. And she was, oh, did you? So why didn't you call me? I was like, well, it just didn't cross my mind. But it was so easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I get that. I'm often sitting at my desk working, and I'll pick up my phone. At the moment I pick up my phone, my husband's calling, or one of my daughters, or somebody else, or I call them, and they'll say, oh my goodness. In fact, someone called me yesterday, and this person had been listening to a webinar that I'd done with my friend Jacquie, and he said he loved it so much, and then he was driving along the road. He says, Jacquie, I was sending you love, and all of a sudden he says, you sent me a text. And then we had a conversation. It's like, how did I know that he'd been listening to that webinar? How did I know that he'd been thinking about me? That, that there's so many things we can't explain. But to me, that's consciousness in action.
Yes, absolutely. And could you just share with our audience what is the One Woman Global about?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Clésia. OneWoman.global is it's an online community for women. Myself and Dr. Amy Johnson, who lives in the States, we have created a podcast that we give out every 2 weeks. And we take topics, various monthly topics, that are relevant to women all about this understanding the three principles, but we talk about it in a very straightforward, very human way. And the aim of onewoman.global is to help women get back in touch with peace and wisdom that's already within them, that we often forget about due to the busyness of our lives. This intuition that for years has guided women through the centuries to great power and amazing feats, that we would love more women just to tap into that again, and then in turn to teach their children about this wonderful gift of insight and wisdom that we all have within us. So Amy and I laugh a lot on these podcasts, and we share stories about, you know, how things have been for us. And it's just very, very human, very down to earth, Clésia. Good fun.
Oh, fabulous. So remember, go to onewoman.global. Is that your
Yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love laughter. I love laughter. I had someone from the audience get in touch to say, I like to watch the episodes, and he's a guy, right? I like to watch the episode just because you laugh a lot. And I like that. I was like, great.
But see, that's it, Clésia. You know, so when you put something out in the world, as you've done with this series, you know, womanhood from the inside out, it's not just women that listen.
Mm-hmm.
It's men too, because they're curious about life. They're curious about how their minds work. They're curious about what the hell are women talking about. You know, we find that with onewoman.global as well, that we get a lot of guys listening and they're getting benefit from it. We all get benefit from understanding how life really works.
Yeah.
And with that beautiful lightheartedness, you can change the world. The world's too serious. Too serious.
It is. It is. And we can. Yes, we can. That reminds me of something else.
This is like a Barack Obama campaign to me.
I was thinking, you just read my mind. You're like, I'm loving this conversation. And my question is, where would you like to guide us next?
Oh, I don't know. I think something that's been coming up for me a lot over the last couple of weeks is letting life flow through us, Clésia. I think as a modern day society, many of us have got used to suppressing our feelings, suppressing our emotions, feeling that it's not normal to feel sad or to feel angry or to feel tearful, and thinking that there's something wrong with us when we feel these emotions. And lately, through the clients I've been coaching and the training that I've been doing, it's becoming very, very important that when we surrender to the fact that we are human, and part of the human experience is to let life flow through us, to feel the emotions that we're meant to feel, and to learn from them. Because that's how we as human beings evolve. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's what I would like people to be aware of. Because so often now people start to feel things and they go to their doctor to get something to not feel. Or they drink to not feel. Or they take drugs to not feel. Or they eat to not feel what's bubbling up inside of them. And often we've got to let things bubble up and come out of us so that we can see it for what it is, learn from it, and then just let it go. Just let it go.
Jacquie, that is beautiful, and mostly because it brought me to something else. In the other day, I was speaking with a friend, and basically she's a startup investor. She started a company with other founders. And one of the things that she was sharing with me is that sometimes she doesn't feel heard by the other business partners because they are mostly male. And she said, and I get all emotional and they don't take me serious and I'm really upset. I'm making the voice she was making. And I get really upset, and more upset I get, the less serious I take. So I guess from the outside in, there is this perception that being emotional is actually a weakness. Okay, so could you speak to that, please?
Absolutely, Clésia. I've been there. I've been there in the corporate environment. I've been there going into meetings where I'm the only female in a boardroom, and you're actually walking into a room and it feels as though you're going into a room that's full of Rottweilers that haven't been fed for a week.
Ooh.
You know, pretty vicious stuff, and not being listened to. And what I found is that the more in tune with myself I am, the less their behaviour has an impact on me. So when I am in a place of a calm, quiet mind, and I am grounded and certain of what it is I'm going to say and why I'm going to say it, then I'm heard, because my energy is so strong and grounded that people listen. Whereas previously, if I'm going into a meeting and it felt like that meeting that I went into, and I was up in my head about all the past experiences I've had about people not listening, especially men not listening in that kind of environment, and becoming emotional because my voice wasn't heard, it's almost like you set off this internal hurricane within yourself that doesn't enable you to settle, to calm down. Like, you know, like a snow globe going round and round and round and round and round. Your thoughts are going round your head at a very, very quick pace. You're very busy-minded. You're unsettled. And we are vibrational beings. Humans are vibrational beings. And people pick up on that. But when you meet someone who's very certain, very grounded, very quiet-minded, there is an inner strength that comes from that people pick up on. And even in the way that you communicate, when you're in that place of non-attachment, by non-attachment I mean for your friend is they have to listen to me because what I've got to say is very important and they're not listening to me and I'm important and I want to be heard. When you're not coming from that space and you're coming from a space of I know what I have to say is important. I know it will be beneficial for the business, but if they don't listen, they don't listen. And you take that pressure off of yourself to be heard. You've got no attachment to outcome. I find there's a strength inside of me, Clésia, that just sort of goes for it. When I find strength to say things to people like, it's my turn to speak. I have something important to say. I'd like you to listen. And when it comes from that, and I'm sure you just heard that in my voice there is an assurity and a commanding presence, but it's not coming from a place of ego. It's coming from a place of inner strength that says, I know who the hell I am. I know what I have to contribute is important, and I don't want to play games. And I'm not scared. I don't care what you think of me, because it's not me that's important, it's what I have to contribute.
That is beautiful. And it was so powerful that I just wanted to linger a little bit more. Yes. Yes.
It's easy for us as women to think, to go into these meetings and think we're not as good as, okay, that we're lesser than. And that's just all constructed. It's all thought. It's not a reality. And as people wake up to what they're thinking, and they can start to see their thinking and realise that it's all thought. We are thinking creatures. It's how we make sense of our world. Our thoughts are like the script of our life, like the rudder of a ship. They guide us. And it's only when we add our consciousness to them, we create these special effects that can either make something feel very scary, very frightening, or very fun and happy. But when you start to see that that's all just a game that we play day in, day out, and you start to see that everything is constructed from thought, you start to take yourself less seriously. You start to notice that you are the thinker. And you start to let go of that need to construct meaning from your thoughts. So going into a meeting, I might have a thought about, oh God, I'm going to talk about something here and I don't think they're going to get it. But I don't dwell on it. Oh, that's curious, that's come up. That's interesting. But I don't, it's like an auto cue. I can see the auto cue going at the side of me. It's like, oh, just let that flow. Because all thought is neutral. All thought is neutral. And we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day piling through our brain. And some of them we choose to act on and some of them we don't. So going into a business meeting, and your brain's very clever, because what it does is it pops the file back up again and it says, well, the last time you were in this kind of environment, this is how you felt. And you felt this way because of them. And I'd say to you, no, you didn't. You felt that way because you thought what was happening was real. You thought, I'm having a feeling, so I'm going to analyze where that feeling is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact, all you need to know is the minute you're feeling something, it's because you're thinking something. And because you're thinking something doesn't mean to say that it means anything other than you are thinking.
Jacquie, that is beautiful. And I feel we are coming to a natural pause for today's show.
Mm-hmm.
What is the easiest way for people to find you or to reach you?
Oh, just there's www.jacquieforde.com. There's a website there, and you can get my email address from there and get in touch. Also at the onewoman.global site where Amy and I are, you can get in touch through that too. But lovely to hear from anybody who wants to pick up the chat. And thank you again, Clésia. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and yeah.
Oh, we're not done yet.
Oh,
Not yet.
I'm just signing off.
Oh, you were about to sign up. So for me, people would like to reach out. You can go directly to Facebook. So that would be, excuse me, facebook.com/Clésia.Mendes. And I'll spell that. So that would be facebook.com/CLESIA.MENDES. Or you can go directly to my website, and that would be www.clesiamensch.com. And Jacquie, what would be your parting words for our audience today?
Oh, just live. Just live. Don't take yourself too seriously and just live life. Let it flow through you. Let life flow through you.
Oh, that's beautiful. So thank you very much for being with us and our audience today. And remember to subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you. Bye-bye, Jacquie.
Bye.